Amazing authors, it's Bryn Donovan, author and writing coach. This is my writing partner, Moxie, and this is week 8 of Blank Page to Final Draft, which is a free online course for planning, writing, and editing your novel. If you are following this course, you just wrote your chapter 2. Congratulations, you're moving right along and you should feel great about your progress. I'm just going to take a few minutes today to talk about a question I get a lot from authors, and it may pertain to you too. We'll see. A lot of writers will ask me when they're in the middle of a draft, why are my chapters so short? Or when they get to the end of a draft, they'll ask, why can't I write a full-length novel? Why is my story so short? They'll ask me questions like, is 50,000 words enough words for a young adult novel? Generally speaking, no. Or is 45,000 words enough for a science fiction novel? Almost certainly not, you know? And writers will sometimes tell each other, oh, well, Hemingway wrote this really short novel once, and that kind of thing. But the truth is, writing a long enough novel is a real issue for a lot of people. Writing long enough chapters is a real issue for a lot of people. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the reasons why your story can run short. First of all, it's really common for first drafts to be underwritten. When I write a first draft, it's often about 5,000 words shorter than the final draft, for instance. And so that's not really a concern. But if you're writing really short, there are a few reasons for that. The first one isn't one that anyone is going to like, which is sometimes you just don't have enough plot for a full-length novel. Some plots are better suited for a short story or a novella. Now, there's nothing wrong with writing a short story or a novella. It's fantastic, actually. But that can still be frustrating, I'm sure, if you're trying to write a full-length novel. But a plot has to have enough heft and complexity to sustain that length. So sometimes that's the issue. Now, the good news is that's usually not the issue in my experience. A much more common reason why a novel runs short or chapters run short is that the writer is writing summaries instead of scenes. So I'll try to explain this a little bit. You'll have a writer who writes something like, Jeremy and Damon traded insults and got into a brutal fist fight, and Damon broke Jeremy's nose and blood was all over the place. Okay, that's just a few sentences. That's a summary. That should be a scene that is a few pages or even several pages long. So we should have dialogue where we hear these insults being traded. We should have a little bit of sense of where we are, because this isn't happening in a blank space, right? There's probably reactions from other people who are witness to this. If Jeremy and Damon aren't alone, we feel the impact of the fist fight, what it feels like to get your nose broken. This is getting really violent, but you get the idea. You're fleshing out that scene. It's a few pages or several pages, not. I've noticed that authors tend to pull back or summarize more often when you have conflict, when you have something painful or an argument or that kind of thing. And that makes sense because a lot of us authors are sensitive people, and so we'll tend to shy away from that material. The truth is, when you have a fight scene, when you have conflict, when you have something sad, you actually have to go all in then. You really have to give us the whole thing, because it's that conflict and that drama that keeps readers reading. Okay, so summarizing instead of writing fully fleshed out scenes is one of the main reasons why writers run short. There are a few other reasons, and one reason can be that there's not much going on internally. So we don't know much about the thoughts or the feelings of the character. If they're nervous, we don't feel that shaky, feeling, that kind of fluttery or nervous butterflies, right? If they're sad, we don't feel that heaviness, that ache in their chest. We're not getting any of that. Now, this is a real problem in a story for a few reasons. First of all, if we're not privy to a lot of thoughts and feelings and even physical reactions, like when they step outside and the cold wind hits their skin and things like that, if we're not privy to all of those things, we're not going to be as emotionally engaged in a story, which is a really big problem. One of the cool things about books that you can't do in TV and movies is put the reader, put the audience right in that person's head, right in their body, right in their psyche, you know, and you can't really do that with TV and movies where you're watching it happen instead of being in there in the middle of it with the character. So you want to take advantage of that and get the reader, bring the reader along with you and get them emotionally engaged. And then also, you're not going to run too short. One of the other reasons you can run short is that your visual description is lacking, and your sensory details too, not just visual, in fact. This is a huge issue, and I'm going to cover it in a couple of different upcoming episodes, I promise. But all of those things are things you can think about as you go into writing your chapter 3. Now, you don't have to go back now and flesh out chapter 1, chapter 2. You're going to get a chance to do that later. But if you feel like your writing is a little lean, you can think about some of those things as you go on and write chapter 3 this week. Your checklist for this week is pretty simple. It's below. This is a short video, which seems appropriate for a video about chapters and stories running short. But I hope you have a great week. Thanks for watching and happy writing.